Hello friends, welcome back to Cosmopolitan Cornbread. So I am out here getting started planting some of my many starts, as many as I can out here in the garden. I have a very bad habit. Well, I don't think it's a bad habit, but a habit of starting way more plants than I need, like all the time. But that's okay. I can take all the rest of my plants and set them out at the road and see if anybody wants the freebies. I did that last year too, as a matter of fact. It was someone who had just moved here into our little area and wanted to start a garden. I said, "You want a couple plants?" Because they had stopped to ask me a question about something. And I said, "You want some tomato plants? I have a few extras here." And they're like, "Sure." And came back later on and they're like, "Those are the best tomatoes ever." But anyways, I thought I would bring y'all out here today. Ooh, hello little worm. Always love seeing the earthworms in the garden. I thought I would bring you out here and chat a little bit about a couple of things. First of all, I've said many times over the years, not necessarily on camera, but just in conversation with people, how when you're reading the written word, like a message from somebody or what have you, the tone that you have or the emotions that you have while you read it direct the meaning of the text. You can read something and be upset, and you read it and it's just going to fuel the fire. But then you could also read something with a completely different mindset and see it a totally different way. And I've joked in the past, it's like, I wonder how many wars have started over the written text because people didn't have a face-to-face conversation and didn't understand where they're coming from. But that said, I did my video the other day where I talked about us moving back to Alabama, and I talked about the house hunt and all that, and I talked about how we were going to be I talked about how my son and daughter-in-law and grandbaby are moving to Texas, and it's going to be a major challenge to not have Willow around all the time. And there were a few comments about that, and there was one in particular, and I am sure that the person who wrote the comment did not mean it in a way that it came across. And that's why I talk about like the written text versus face-to-face communication and how they can be taken very differently. But somebody said something about like, I would never leave my grandbabies, It was just the way it was written, or the way I read it, that it made it sound like, are you saying I don't love my grandbaby? Do you say you love your grandbaby more than I love mine? And so you would never move away? Well, I'm sorry. It just that one just rubbed me the wrong way. It doesn't really matter if Mr. Smith and I move back to Alabama or not. They're already moving to Texas, so I'm not moving away from my grandbaby or grandbabies, because we have two here. They're moving away. They're going to Texas, whether we stay here or go to Alabama or Timbuktu. They're still going to Texas. My son has a very good job there. He was actually just, politics aside, he just joined the Ironworkers Union, and he is so good at what he does. They actually bypassed the apprenticeship, which is normally part of the process, and put him straight in as a journeyman because he's so good. And there were so many people who gave such good recommendations for him, how he was running circles around everybody there. He walked in and the president said, "Throw away that application, you're a journeyman now." So he went straight into having full benefits, medical, all of that stuff for him and his family, for Willow and Cecil and his wife. So that is an opportunity that he got because he's been taking these jobs in Texas. And, you know, there is no way I would ever take away from that because, you know, biblical order, a man is supposed to leave his mother and cleave to his wife. So if they're still under our roof, for whatever reason, and they're not able to like really truly live as a family, how are they ever going to flourish as a family? How are they ever going to be there when Oma and Pap are around all the time? This will give them a tremendous opportunity to grow and mold themselves as a family unit. And I would never, ever, ever want to take away that opportunity, no matter what my emotions are, no matter how I feel about, you know, Willow and Cecil moving away, because it's not about me, it's about them. And like I said, I'm sure that the person who wrote that particular comment, and there were several comments similar to it, I'm sure that they didn't mean it that way. That's just how it kind of came across to me in the written text. And a lot of people don't know this, but Willow and Cecil are not my only grandkids. We have another grandchild. And since moving here to Arkansas, I can count on my fingers how many times we've been able to see her because we're so far away from her. You know, Willow has had 3 years of living with us here. 3 years of Oma and Pap time, 3 years of the nurturing and the fun of playing in the garden and feeding the animals and doing all these things. And our other grandchild has completely missed out on that, except for once a year when they come for Thanksgiving to visit. That's the only opportunity she's had to do that. And so moving back to Alabama, you know, we're going to be closer to them. She'll be able to come visit all the time. And while, yes, it'll be further away and Will won't be able to come see us anywhere near as much, we fully plan on getting her and bringing her for visits, long visits, as much as we possibly can. And hopefully have them come at the same time. That would be my dream, to have all the grandbabies there and Cecil once he's old enough. So this is going to be an opportunity for our other grandchild. So even if, you know, my son's family stayed here and Willow and Cecil stayed here, what about the other grandchild? Am I supposed to just put her to the outskirts because she's not here and because Willow and Cecil are? So there's so many different dynamics to take into account when you're thinking of family dynamics. And so this is going to be a wonderful opportunity, and not just for my other granddaughter, but my daughter as well. You know, my daughter moved to Tennessee a few years ago, and up until us moving back to Alabama, with just like my other granddaughter and everything, I only get to see her once a year when she comes for Thanksgiving. With her being in Tennessee now and us going back to northern Alabama, I'll be able to see her all the time because she'll only be a few hours away. So yes, there's going to be lots of tears when Willow and Cecil move away. But now I'm going to have a season where I can spend more time with my other kids and grandbaby as well. So I know it's going to be hard, and I know people cannot imagine having a grandchild or grandchildren move far away. I've never said that's going to be easy. Far be it from me to say that. But at the same time, having families spread out in multiple states is not something new to us. You know, we were a military family. Our entire military career, we did not have family around. Nobody lived in the same state as us, whether it was in Virginia or Texas. Well, Texas, I take it back. I did have a cousin who lived about an hour and a half away, but we only saw her a couple of times when we lived down there. But as far as like the grandparents or aunts and uncles or anything like that, we didn't have family around. I mean, especially when we lived in Germany or when we lived in Alaska, there wasn't family around. But, you know, thankfully we have this thing nowadays called the internet. And because of that, we are able to FaceTime and see one another, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful blessing to be able to have that, because we sure didn't when Mr. Smith and I were young parents. We didn't have that. You know, it was letters and phone calls, and you know, this idea that you would actually have your family all in one place is very, well, really, it was actually very foreign to Mr. Smith, because he grew up as an Army brat. He didn't grow up with all of the family being close by. So I guess unless you have lived a military lifestyle or a similar lifestyle that took you in other places, it might seem just unfathomable to a lot of people. But for us, it's actually going to be kind of going back to what we're accustomed to. And you know, that is just something for people out there to keep in mind when it comes to your thoughts on military families. Not only are they doing the hard things, husbands or moms deploying for a year at a time in foreign soil and not being with their immediate family, but most of the time they're not anywhere near any family, and that is another sacrifice that our military makes for the rest of us. So just my thoughts here this morning on that. But on to lighter things. So y'all, I have this antique many years ago, when I was a young mom. I was in church, and we had a ladies, like a secret, I forget what they called it, but it was like you would bless your secret sister. That's what it was called. You would have a secret sister, and she would bless you in some way during like a certain period of time. And this one particular sister gave me this adorable antique candle holder, which was kind of funny because it was amber glass, and that actually kind of made me start loving amber glass things. But she gave me this candle holder, and it's called a fairy lamp. It's like it has a base, and then there's like a glass dome that goes over the top, and you put candles in it. Beautiful. Now, a couple years ago, you could get one of these fairy lamps for like $15-20 tops. And you'd see them everywhere. Like every antique store you'd go to, you would see these things. And like I said, they were always very inexpensive. But I went into an antique store the other day, and I saw one. Amber glass fairy lamp, exactly like mine, right? I picked it up and looked at it, and you know, I contemplated getting it. You know, nice to have a pair. I could put a pair of them on the size of my organ. I thought that, you know, that would be really pretty. Y'all, the lady rang me up because I had bought a couple other things. She rang me up, and it was a very large sum of money. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And then I looked down at that fairy lamp. The price tag said $130. And I'm like, I guess I had looked at the booth number and thought that was the price. And I'm like, I'm sorry, does that say $130? I was flabbergasted. And the lady who was ringing me up said, oh yeah. She said, it is the new hot thing. All these young ladies are coming in and buying them up, and the price has gone through the roof. And she said it's the fairy lamps, no matter what color, what kind, whatever, these glass fairy lamps, different brands, all that. They are running well over $100 each, even the little ones. I saw one for over $200. They're driving them up because that's the new hot thing. And then she said it was also the hens on nests, which I have my grandmother's hens on nests, and I have a jadeite green glass one that's like the same color as my kitchen cabinet handles, which I found at an antique store years ago. I paid $30 for it, which was an amazing price because I'd never seen one like it. They're already packed though, so I can't show them to you, but I'm sure you've seen them. I'll put a picture of what I'm talking about up here. Y'all, those things are running through the roof as well. And it all goes back to apparently it's a TikTok trend. And all the young ladies are coming in and buying up the fairy lamps and the hens on nests. So, if any of y'all inherited grandma's antiques and you've got one of these things laying around and you don't really want it or care for it, you could make some money. Post it on Facebook Marketplace or Etsy and you can make some money off of that thing. So, just a little heads up, y'all, if you want to make some money. Who'd have thunk it? Fairy lamps. Like I said, you could get those for next to nothing just a couple years ago. And now, they are highly, highly valued. All right, y'all, so one last thing before I wrap this up. I had several people asking me about the colors that we painted our house, or rather chose to have painted for our house. And so I brought my little paint chip things down here so I could share those colors with you. So the house is, like I said, kind of a slate blue color, and all of this paint came from Behr at Home Depot, which I don't know if there's other stores that carry it. That's just where we get it. But the Behr color for the house is called, oh, I hear some thunder, I think. Or is that a jet from Fort Smith? I don't know. The house color is called Chimney. And I know that these colors are not going to show up well on camera. I'll try and take a photo in some good lighting so that you can maybe see it. The colors never come across on camera very well. But this one is called Chimney, and it is code PPU 25-22D, and that is the house color. And then the trim and stairs and all of that are called Earth Fired Red, and the color code for that is S200-7D. And then finally, the doors. So I don't know, I think you could maybe see one of the doors in the background above the stairs. The door color is called Northwoods. And it's just this like deep green color. And it is N410-7D. So these are the colors that we painted everything. So hopefully you can see that. I know the real color's not really going to show up on camera, but there it is. I kind of went with sort of a cabiny, woodsy sort of color palette on the outside of the house. And I am going to actually paint the workshop and chicken coop these colors as well. All right, y'all. So I am going to finish up planting a couple more things, and then Willow and Cecil and I and their mama are going to head into Fort Smith, and I'm going to take them out to Willow's favorite restaurant. She calls it the taco store. Tacos for life in Fort Smith. She loves it. So, and it's kind of become a little bit of a routine with us. So with that, God bless y'all. I'll talk to y'all next time.